So today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is American civilization. Wait a minute. We got the red, white, and blue, the bald eagle. What is that? The U.S. Constitution that set up our government? No, not that American civilization. I'm talking about pre-Columbian American civilization, before the British came and started the colonies, before the French came and traded furs, before the Spanish came looking for gold, before any European set foot in the Americas looking for a trade route to China or India, before all that. Yeah, that's the American civilization I'm talking about. Pyramids, paintings of gods. Yeah, that's it, exactly. The eagle can stay, but he's not excited about this mix-up. So today we're going to learn the origins of American culture. Where do they even come from? We're also going to identify and analyze several important American civilizations. So analyze means to take apart and look at the parts, their religion, their government. That will help us better understand. Okay? So first, how did Native Americans get to North America? Well, Native Americans, believe it or not, started over here in Asia. And if you look at about north 70 degrees latitude and 180 degrees east longitude, you see there's this piece of land sticking out in the northeast corner of Asia. Well, that piece of land almost touches North America, but 10,000 years ago, it didn't almost touch, it did touch, okay? And first, animals went over this land bridge. Then people followed those animals so they could hunt those animals for food and clothing. And they first went to North America and then followed the animals all the way through South America. We're not sure if maybe they sailed along the coast here, but either way, we're sure that the first Native Americans actually came from Asia. Now, let's get an idea of what the land is like. So some of the most important rivers, I want you to label the Rio Grande. I want you to label the Mississippi and the Ohio branching out to the east and the Missouri branching out to the west. I want you to draw the Rocky Mountains onto your map, or you can just label them. Rocky Mountains on the western portion. You also need the Appalachian Mountains. I'll spell it for you down here. Appalachian Mountains in the eastern portion of the country. So the first people we're going to talk about are the Olmecs. Okay, now what's so special about the Olmecs? Well, I'll tell you. A lot of the people at the time were hunters and gatherers, and they would do a little bit of farming, but it wasn't enough to feed a whole lot of people. Well, the Olmecs were very good farmers. We'll look at why. And they were able to feed large populations so they could get communities together in entire cities. And when you have that many people together, not everyone has to be working on making food. That means other people are freed up to work on art, religion, government, and those things grow. So let's look a little bit about how Olmec culture grew. So their architecture, that means what they built out of and what they built. They built out of stone and they built large cities, which again was new to this time. Religion, they had many different gods. Again, this freed up time that they're not growing food, that they can spend more time thinking about religion. Calendar, it means they're very good at math and paying close attention to the seasons for them to be able to create a calendar. Irrigation. Irrigation is where they actually build ditches and canals to get water to their crops. One of the reasons that they were such successful farmers is they were able to use irrigation. Now, I want to look at this text down here. The Olmecs were traders. They traded with people who lived hundreds of miles away in present-day Mexico and Central America. Trade helped spread the Olmec culture in the Americas. This is called cultural diffusion, a very important vocabulary term. Okay, cultural diffusion means that when the Olmecs went and they were trading with other peoples around them, they say, hey, I got some corn, I got some tools, and those other people would say, hey, I like this corn and I like these tools, I'm going to use them, but you know what I really like is that stone city you got. I want to do that, right? Maybe religious ideas, that God that you have. I really like that. I'm going to copy that, okay? So look at this area here, and then look at this little dot here, okay? This little dot is one of the areas that was influenced by Olmec culture. It is the city of Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan, okay? It is a giant city of about 100, 200,000. They were pyramid builders, and they were also traders, okay? They grew up and they were successful for a few hundred years. Scientists think their city might have looked a little like this. Okay? So start thinking the Olmecs built cities. They influenced another culture. And then these people would again later influence another culture. Okay? Makes me think of way the British culture influenced American culture. Making a connection here, just rolling around the old noggin. So the next map shows a new group. All right? I want you to label your map. The box number 1 is pointing to the Olmec area. Box number 2 is pointing to Teotihuacan area. And box number 3 is pointing to the Yucatan Peninsula, which was the home of The Mayans. Okay, the Mayans are important because they borrowed a lot from Olmec culture, and they would also influence later American cultures too. Okay, so what do you need to know about religion? At this point, we have a chart because we're going to analyze Mayan culture. We're going to break apart and look at the different pieces. So religion. Religion is very important to every part of Mayan life. And one way that we know this here is a pyramid, okay? And on the top is a temple where they would worship. And these weren't, stuck off in a dark alley somewhere where no one would see them. They were front and center in the middle of the town. This means that this was an important thing to the community, okay? So what you do need to write is many gods. The Mayans worshipped dozens of different gods. In your box, you need to write many gods and also human sacrifice. What is human sacrifice? Excuse me. Human sacrifice means that people would actually kill other people as an offering to the gods. So why do people do this? Well, the way the Mayans believed is that the gods give them everything. The gods give them life. They give water. They give good soil. They give sunshine. They give corn. Those things represent life to the Mayans. That's how they survive. Well, what do the gods ask in return? Well, the gods give life, and the gods ask for life in return. It's an exchange, okay? So the Mayans would actually kill people in their temple, and that would be an offering to the gods. The Mayans, under architecture, I want you to put temples and pyramids. Again, it was a lot related to their religion, but pyramids and temples are some of the biggest monuments and most important monuments we have from the Mayans. There is the temple at the top of the pyramid. So the economy, you're going to need to write farmers and traders. So why does good farming lead to trading? All right, I don't know if I've heard people explain that very, very well. So look at all these crops they raised: maize, beans, chilies, squashes, tomatoes, pumpkins, and in some regions, cocoa plant. That's chocolate. So the idea is, why would that make them good traders? They're farming, they're growing off the land. What does that have to do with trade? Well, it says, due to the crops that grew, they became great traders. Remember the southern colonies? Remember how the weather is so good that they can grow more crops than they need to eat, enough that they can trade them and make money off them? In fact, that's why they went there. Well, look at the Yucatan. The weather is very similar in the southern colonies and the Yucatan. They also grow enough crops, more than they need, to support their large cities, and they can actually have a surplus extra that they can then go and sell and make some money. Government, two things you need to know. City-states. That means that each city was the control center for the state around it, okay? And these different city-states, some of them had their own power, some of them were controlled by other city-states, okay? And then the other thing you need to put in your box, kings, okay? They didn't have a representative government where you vote on your leader, okay? They had kings, so your power came from your family. And we're going to talk more about that when we talk about the Aztecs next time. So in that other column, there's things about Mayan culture that you still need to know that don't really fit into some of the other boxes that we have, okay? One is glyphs. That is their writing system, okay? The Mayans had the most advanced writing system in the Americas. This is an example, some of the symbols they used for writing. Another one, just like the Olmecs, the Mayans had a calendar, right? Calendar under other. So the Mayans created two different calendars. One was based on the religious cycle, and one was based on the Earth's movement. Okay, so they kept very close track of time. Again, shows how good they were at math. Ball game. This is actually a ball game stadium this looks like in Chichen Itza. I think this is in Chichen Itza. They had a ball game stadium, and these little circles here are the goals. And it was a lot like soccer, where you could only touch the ball with your hips, your knees, and your elbows, maybe your feet. I'm not sure. I don't know the rules. But only touching the ball with those parts of your body, you'd have to get the ball through this hoop. All right? We're not sure what happened. We think there was human sacrifice involved. So either the winner or the loser might have been killed at the temple, like we talked about. All right? So this is very unique. They weren't all work. They had some fun games. Of course, somebody died at the end, but it's still a game. Now, what happened to the Mayans? Now, the Mayans sort of started disappearing, or at least leaving their cities, before the Europeans ever arrived. So we're still wondering what happened. Natural disaster. Was there something like a storm that came and wiped a big amount of their farmland out? A revolt? Were the people in the states tired of being controlled by the people in the cities and fought back, okay? Or is it a disease? That could happen too. We don't know, all right? I want you to start thinking about what kind of evidence would you need to be convinced of one of these arguments.